Hi all. This is the audio version of the newsletter I sent out the weekend before Thanksgiving, entitled Total Eclipse Election Season 2020, the Bardo of Bombardment. Begins with a quote from Chogyam Trungpa: "In the garden of gentle sanity, may you be bombarded by coconuts of wakefulness." Dear one, if you've been feeling bombarded like never before by all the chaos and uncertainty of 2020, which has been a stress test of how stable and resilient we are at the core of being, then you're exactly right on schedule. For even with the U.S. election day mostly behind us, many of us are still reverberating with trauma from 4 years of trying hard not to be adversely affected by the darker side of the Kali Yuga, even if we've been successful with maintaining the witnessing perspective of the soul most of the time. On the astrological front, we're entering our biannual eclipse season, which always ramps up the intensity as it sets the tone and themes for the next 6 months and beyond. It kicks off with a lunar eclipse on November 30th in Gemini, which I've been keeping my eye on for quite some time. That is because this full moon eclipse, a time of culmination and endings in which the ancients believed, quote unquote, the mighty will fall, exactly conjuncts Trump's natal dharmic North Node, Sun, and Uranus stellium in Gemini. And that's all in his 10th house of career. This means that the next 19-year phase of his karmic journey is falling into place. Consequently, if he's been good, he'll be rewarded, and if he's been very, very bad, albeit true to his sociopathic trickster nature, it signifies a fall from grace, especially affecting his emotional state. As the transiting south node of karma is moving towards his natal moon, in addition to the fact that he was born on a lunar eclipse and thus is especially sensitized to its effects in a major way. So while we will get to observe Trump's karmauppance playing out on the world stage over the next few years without doubt, it's important to not just grab the popcorn, but also try to maintain the witness with compassion. Then we have an extremely potent total solar eclipse on December 14th in Sagittarius, conjunct the transiting north node of destiny. This new moon eclipse kicks off a very new cycle, as it's immediately followed by Saturn and Jupiter moving into Aquarius on the 16th and 19th respectively, and then conjuncting exactly on the winter solstice on December 21st. Wow, talk about multiple indicators that we're finally entering the age of Aquarius with a very positive bang. December 14th is called Safe Harbor Day. It's when all the electors from each state cast their votes, with the new moon total eclipse in optimistic Jupiter ruling Sag. This day indicates the initiating of a complete reboot of the level of the state of play in the evolution of consciousness, an entirely new paradigm of the Earth game being birthed. Yay! All the above being said, it's especially important to be cognizant of the fact that the external visible reality of the Earth game is only half of the stressors we've been under. For while it's human nature to focus on the more tangible effects of the horizontal onslaught of how the pandemic and the U.S. presidential election have affected us personally and globally, we're also being hit vertically by the next phase of the quickening moving in. In fact, over the last few months especially, there has been an unprecedented overloading of our nervous systems and physical bodies by a sizable uptick in these high-speed psychic frequencies being downloaded into each and every one of us and the Earth plane itself. So if you've been feeling as if you're under a barrage of stress-inducing, exhausting energies above and beyond current events externally, then you're right on schedule here as well. I've been writing about the quickening since the 90s and have been feeling its effects since the harmonic convergence in '87. But in the last few years, we've been experiencing an extraordinary, ever-increasing surge of higher frequency waves inundating the Earth. The last time I wrote about the quickening at length was as it was entering phase 3 in my annual Coming Attractions newsletter, which was sent out at the end of 2018, which was entitled, believe it or not, How to Be in Paradise During a Cosmic Flu Pandemic. And I remember getting downloaded the word pandemic and having to look it up, the definition, to make sure it's what I meant to say, that it was going to be the global, it was going to be of a global nature, this cosmic flu. So that was a little over 2 years before the external pandemic of COVID was announced. What is the quickening? I describe it as the continuous, unrelenting acceleration of planetary, galactic, and cosmic energies, heralding in the next great age in the evolution of consciousness. In the last few years, if you've been feeling more easily exhausted, destabilized, ungrounded, and downright dizzy, it means that you're psychically sensitive enough to be experiencing some of the brand new special effects of the cosmic flu, all brought on by the quickening, now escalating into phase 4. Based on my overall read of the force of how these current energies are affecting us, I've concluded that we entered the next level of this ongoing bombardment as we are receiving the maximum speed of vibrational power that human beings have ever had to contend with to date. The quickening is affecting everyone, but for those of us who are psychically open, it can be especially uncomfortable, even though the ultimate outcome is positive, the ability to handle more juice with an expanded consciousness of being. In the meantime, we may feel as if we have what I call the cosmic flu, aka psychic flu. This is a confluence of symptoms that many finely tuned souls have been experiencing cyclically for decades, including me. The main symptoms can be combinations of fatigue, body aches, joint pain, structural instability, nervousness, free-floating anxiety, aka metaphysical angst, restless sleep, overactive dream states, brain fog, and feelings that the ego identity is disintegrating. But now, as we enter phase 4, the energies flooding us are not just vertical anymore, but horizontal as well. This means that we're being hit simultaneously by the denser cumulative energies of the mass consciousness and the karma of the world. The 1-2 punch of this energetic blitzkrieg can leave us feeling even more unsteady, with episodes of vertigo and short-term memory loss, as we're getting knocked out of linear space and time more and more. So now we're all being affected by these accelerating frequencies in different ways, vertically and horizontally, dependent on our level of conscious soul evolution. Yowza. One might ask, which came first, the cosmic flu vertically or the COVID-19 pandemic horizontally? Well, the answer is obvious to those of us on spiritual paths of awakening. It's always an inside job first. This means that the quickening has gone from just manifesting inside of us as the cosmic flu to somatizing outward into the worldwide pandemic we're all being affected by. This gives us an idea of just how potent these manifesting co-creative energies are in bringing us all together on the planet as we evolve towards unity consciousness, aka one being with billions of faces. With the global pandemic, we now all have a common problem and a common cure, and that we're all in this together regardless of any arbitrary external boundaries or divisions of race, country, class, or religious beliefs. Powerful stuff. Synchronistically today, just after typing the above channeled info, I heard a news conference from the head of the WHO who said, re the pandemic and the coming vaccine in 2021, nobody is safe until everybody is safe. Can't make this stuff up. In 2016, I was getting internally psychically rewired for the 3rd time in this incarnation. It happens every 20 years or so. These rewirings allow me to handle more juice without frying my nervous system. It got so intense as I was also being downloaded with the entire Akashic records, aka the continuously evolving soul records of karmic gains and losses, that I somatized by literally blowing out the electrical wiring in my apartment so that it had to be completely rewired from 20 amps to 60 amps. The last few months, the downloads have gotten so intense again that just last week my landline and Wi-Fi got blown out, and as I write this, I'm still waiting for repairs involving major new construction of underground cables for my entire neighborhood. So after 2 weeks of fruitlessly waiting, I just this week switched to 100 times faster internet connection, and now I'm speeding along internally with a much wider bandwidth, with higher frequencies running through my vertical channel and externally in my relationship with all of you and life itself. Yay! The cause of the cosmic flu symptoms is that the continuous transfusion of higher frequency galactic energies is much more than the normal body's nervous system and psychic circuitry can handle without difficulty. Our job is to learn how to adapt our physical vessels to handle these higher vibrations as a new normal way of being, or during this adjustment period experience the consequences. But adapting is easier said than done, as during this almost continuous rewiring and downloading process, whenever our nervous systems and psychic circuitry get overloaded, our circuit breakers shut down the system so that we don't blow a fuse, which can make us feel very sleepy. When I do channel readings in person, I need to remind clients to breathe deeply and focus on their grounding to the earth, as otherwise I have had more and more of them pass out or go unconscious in the middle of their session. In addition, for several years now, I've been experiencing the daily need to take naps, or at times have even passed out. So I've had to adjust my work schedule around the need for this daily downtime. This reminds me of how sleepy I used to get when I was learning how to run more psychic energy than my nervous system could comfortably handle in the early 70s, before I was rewired for the first time. Excuse me. If you're experiencing these symptoms, I know that it can feel debilitating, uncomfortable, bordering on painful, and at times alarming, especially if you don't know what is happening to you, or why you feel under continuous excuse me, psychic attack with a cyclical increase in mental and emotional disturbance and instability. I've been very aware that the quickening, now in phase 4, has moved to a much higher and deeper level of intensity in 2020, exacerbated by periods of solar flares and dark matter effects, which, while occurring at regular intervals throughout the year, have been getting more frequent and extreme this year. Some of the side effects of this intense download of energies include overtaxed nervous systems, strained psychic circuitry, disturbed sleep, overactive dream states, unexplainable fatigue and exhaustion, feelings of structural instability and joint pain, irrational anxiety and brain fog. In addition, dizziness, headaches, blurred vision, heart palpitations, inability to digest heavy foods, skin eruptions, diarrhea, weeping, hysteria, feeling as if you're dying, and the falling away of external attachments to whatever used to give life meaning. Oof. I've also been hearing from more and more clients, especially the psychically sensitive ones, like canaries in a psychic diamond mine, that their fear is that they're getting physically sick with overheating, exhaustion, shortness of breath, hypervigilance, and passing out, in addition to many of the other symptoms of the cosmic flu already mentioned. Therefore, it's paramount that we remind ourselves daily that any new symptoms associated with this upsurge are coming from psychic frequencies as their root cause. And yes, I've had a complete physical checkup just to be on the safe side, which revealed nothing out of the ordinary, which is, of course, good news. It's more than time to start working with all the various symptoms in the ever-growing list of the cosmic flu pandemic from a spiritual perspective. As whenever life pushes at us like this, it literally forces us to gather our forces. Get stronger and grow more internally stable is a form of what I call spiritual resistance training. And now more than ever, we're moving into a period of just such intensive training. The good news is that I found a solution that helps maintain my sanity and equanimity on a daily basis. In addition to Taoist practices to ground and stabilize the physical vessel and dissolve anxiety, I've developed new and improved psychic empowerment practices to handle these energies in ways that keep me peaceful and at least semi-functional as a trance channel in New York City for almost 50 years. No small feat. Here are the key daily practices. 1. Knowing that you're not physically sick in the traditional Western medical sense of having a physical cause, treatment, and cure for your psychic symptoms, especially when they manifest through the physical body. Many of my clients were so concerned about their symptoms that they also had complete physicals, just to be on the safe side, and all tests were normal. 2. Taoist standing Qigong practice to ground the energy, and Taoist sitting practice to stay centered and internally stable. 3. Psychic empowerment practices to handle the feelings of being energetically under assault, vertically and horizontally. On a personal note, even with doing the practices listed above, I've still had to adjust my daily schedule in the last years to accommodate more rest periods, naps, and time outs in between working with clients, computer work, or physical activity. I've learned to accept my extreme swings of physical energy fully on and then completely off, and not push the energy envelope too much, as I've learned that I'll pay for it the next day by having to stay in, rest, and replenish. In other words, a day when I play quote-unquote in-valid and surrender to just being with minimal doing. I think that all of us who are being affected by the cosmic flu need to give ourselves permission to be human beings instead of human doings. I know this may be difficult for those of us with overfull and busy lives, hectic work schedules, bills to pay, and loved ones to look after. However, in the last year, the quarantines brought on by the pandemic has allowed us more permission, externally sanctioned, to rely more on inner sources for validation of our being. But however impossible it may feel to add on more rest breaks and just be, with the quickening affecting more of us, isn't it better to wind down some of the hyperactive, ego-achieving horizontally and focus on more vertical communing with source and pure being before we're absolutely forced to? This also includes cultivating more compassion and loving kindness and less judgment when it comes to how we view those who are debilitated in their capacities to be doers by their cosmic flu symptoms, or by ongoing COVID long-haul symptoms, whether emotionally, mentally, physically, or all of the above. Just as ever-increasing earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and global warming are creating bigger cracks in the earth these days, so too are the higher frequency galactic energies now bombarding the planet, creating bigger cracks in each and every one of us, whether we're consciously aware of it or not. Is this good news or bad news? Well, time will tell, as it always does, but in my view, these accelerating energies of the quickening are heralding in the next great age in the evolution of human consciousness. If we look around us, we can surely see the major split in the mass consciousness between those who are opening to these energies and awakening in the light and those who aren't yet, out of fear and ignorance. So while we can expect some bumps in the road as the next great age moves in with increasing velocity, it's important not to indulge in the wasted energy of worry, anxiety, or what I like to call metaphysical angst, as we'll all even out over the next few millennia. Taoists maintain a very long-range perspective on the earth game. The first stage in this consciousness evolution is to allow the quickening to encourage us to crack open and allow our wounds to open and rise to the surface to be healed on all levels, karmic, mental, emotional, and physical, so there will be more room for light to flow in. Another way to look at our cosmic flu symptoms is that the quickening is helping us become more evolved, awake human beings. These symptoms encourage us to feed our souls more rather than just being human doings, caught in the rat race of feeding the ego more through external validation in this age of spiritual materialism. Because we are still in the very early stages of this energetic metamorphosis, the universe is working on us in a way akin to psychic surgery. This means that the naps are passing out are a necessary anesthesia or a time out of linear time that may best be viewed as a gift from the divine, just as everything we experience is, even though these gifts may appear at times wrapped in distressing disguises. On a positive last note, as mentioned, on December 21st, 2020, we'll have the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction at 0 degrees Aquarius, which, without doubt, any astrologer would say is a huge beacon of hope. Then in 2023, Pluto will move into Aquarius until 2042. And during this period, everything will slowly start being transformed. We'll get to witness all the old values of Pluto and Capricorn falling away. This means that money, materialism, external power, and mindless consumerism will be gradually replaced with the Aquarian values of honoring the higher mind and intuition, more global collaboration, and a deeper multidimensional understanding of the world as our new collective priorities. In 2021 and beyond, as we witness more divine orderly chaos on the mass playing field, we are being given the opportunity to step up the level of our game with the assistance of the quickening. Here are my personal reminders to support this upgrading consciousness. 1. Always maintain the witnessing perspective, which allows me to never take anything personally, no matter what is going on. 2. Keep in mind the deepest secret of Tantra. Accept everything just as it is in the moment. Resistance creates suffering. Here's a practice. A. Lean into the pain, fatigue, desire, sadness, or whatever is arising. B. Become one with it until it consumes and dissolves you. C. Experience being reborn from the ashes with a half smile. 3. The flow of life is not under my control. My true power lies in how I choose to respond and move with it. And 4. If I go for healing and growth in any situation, and simultaneously enjoy the ride, I'll have no regrets later. In closing, I think it's helpful to keep in mind that we're only on the threshold of the next great age in the sign of Aquarius, which will last for over 2,000 years. Thus, the higher frequency galactic energies bombarding us, while necessary to kickstart this new stage in the evolution of human consciousness, are also playing havoc with all levels of our bodies, from the psychic to the physical. We are all becoming evolutionary guinea pigs in the vanguard of this new age. So how do we make the most of this particularly challenging time with its overabundance of what I call FGOs, effing growth opportunities coming our way? And especially, how do we best prepare ourselves to live in an empowering way in what can feel like a psychic combat zone, and besides just yelling incoming and hiding our heads under the covers? Since there are infinite levels of heaven and hell all available to be experienced right here and right now, we always have a free will choice to live with internal freedom and peace within our conditions, no matter how difficult. That's why I've chosen to call the present period the Bardo of Bombardment. In Tibetan Buddhism, a Bardo traditionally refers to a state or plane of consciousness that is sort of in between, or in limbo, between two other states. Our new normal is learning how to live as if we're in between the old 3D ways of being in this relative plane, and simultaneously becoming acclimated to being in 5D and beyond while fully embodied. The culmination of this Bardo period will be an expansion of the range of being vertically and horizontally, so that ultimately we'll all identify as multidimensional beings. Being multidimensional beings experiencing an earthly sojourn. So, accepting the spiritual resistance training of life externally and the quickening internally, both pushing at us to make us stronger and more stable, will allow us to ultimately reach a point outside of linear space and time, where inner and outer realities become one in the eternal now. And finally, here are my soul level resolutions for 2021 and beyond. Enjoy the ride today even more by acting as if each day is our last, and smile. 2. Hold the faith that life goes on, our souls live on, and that which we have always been seeking, Source, has been inside of us all along, and smile. And 3. Be grateful that life is doing its damnedest to help us remember why we are truly here, and just keep on smiling. Wishing us all a soul source equanimity as we awaken and open our hearts more to our true identity of pure being. Wishing us a year of dancing with whatever is in the flow, with neither attachment nor aversion to timing or outcomes. And so it is.